I was doing everything that I could to work while not working, which
Right,
was kind of
right.
defeating the purpose. And so blessingly, and I'm saying this like my identity and stuff was all like tied to my career. It is like
Yeah.
my value is in my profession and my ability to use my intelligence for something creative and social and positive.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Pulling Threads. Today I welcome guest Zoe Taylor, who is a realtor in St. Louis, Missouri. That is not exactly what we're here to talk about today. So, welcome to the show. I am so excited to have this conversation, and we can get in a little bit too, and I think we will get into what you're doing now. But we are here to talk more about your journey over the last several years. You are one of many guests I hope to have who have navigated divorce and just restarting your life and redefining yourself, I feel like. So, welcome.
All of the above.
Yes, thank you so much for being here and being willing to share your journey. Of the people that I work with are so many of them are really in a place of deciding how to move forward, whether to stay in a marriage or move forward with a divorce. And of course, I have many clients who are in the divorce process or are just out of it. So I really wanted, after hearing your story, to talk about your journey because I think it's really valuable in how you walked through this part of your life. We do share that our ex-husbands are in the medical field, and I think that is somewhat significant as well. It is a unique path to walk through, both being married to a physician and leaving a marriage with a physician. So we can go there as much as you feel comfortable. But first, I just wanted
We'll
to,
see what doors open.
yeah, this is 100% unscripted conversation today. I don't even have questions prepared because I really just wanted to give us an opportunity to walk through this and talk about the things that you feel are important for women, other women, or men who are going through this process to hear. So, tell me a little bit about your journey and I guess how you decided and what the process of realizing like it was time to leave looked like for you because I think it's different. Some people do have a moment when they just know, but most people go through a process. Do you mind sharing what that looked like for you?
So my process probably started on my wedding night, honestly, maybe even a
Mm,
couple days before, which is terrible to reflect back on. And it's something that I've had to come to terms with. I dealt with a lot the first year of our marriage and ended up getting pregnant really quickly. And so that kind of put me in this position of, okay, like I'm gonna stay now for sure. Like I'd even considered and had even taken the steps to leave him at one point early on in our marriage, like a few months in,
mm,
when I found out that I was pregnant. So there was already this feeling of just endure. It wasn't that bad. I've talked to you before, and it's like I always like pictured this sliding scale of how much is too much from 0 to 100. My life has been blessed and beautiful, and I have healthy children and parents that love me and friends and a career. You know what I mean? I have this beautiful life. So, on a sliding scale, my life is really, really good compared to, oh my gosh, what people endure. My marriage was not great. It definitely brought that denominator down. And I just got numb to what was I was experiencing to want to, I forgave one thing or I allowed one thing to slip unchecked. I wasn't great at installing. You want to instill like boundaries or some kind of consequence for action. There really wasn't consequences for actions toward me, and it just kind of got normalized. And I was like, okay, this is my life. Everything's beautiful, but this one thing, and I'll stay in this one thing for my kids because they were safe and kind of sheltered from any of the chaos that was happening between our personal, marriage and relationship.
Hmm.
They didn't really see a whole lot of fighting. There was, the chaos was contained for the most part, but it was a slow erasure of me. Erasure. I
Hmm.
said that weird. Anyway, and I didn't really realize it until I was in year 10. I'd known my brain didn't know. My logical
Right.
brain was stuck in this place of like, if I could just be fine, everything's fine. As
Mm.
long as I can just like forgive enough, forget enough, sweep it under the rug, wake up the next day, everything's fine. As long as I can try to conform to what it is that he was needing me to be, like I can endure. And it was having such a toll on my body physically, the inflammation and the rashes and the skin conditions and the stomach. I had IBS the last year of my marriage, which is now completely resolved, but like that was incredibly painful. And so my body knew long before my brain knew.
Right.
But I finally had this, I did kind of have a moment. I had this time with this woman that we shared a hotel room while I was away on a work retreat. And I kind of, for whatever reason, just felt this energy connection with her that I opened up a lot, but a
Hmm.
little bit at a time. But every time I shared something, she's like, Zoe, that's crazy. And I'm like, that's not even that bad compared to like this. And I'd say the next story. And her jaw just like, kept dropping to the floor. And she was so compassionate and she held space for me. And she mirrored what should have truly have been felt about like what I had experienced. And it kind of made me like step out of myself and look at my life as this football field almost. You move the goalposts, you move the boundaries, you did 10-yard setback, something like that. I wasn't even on the field. I was a mile away. I could maybe see the spotlights in the distance, but like I couldn't even see
Yeah.
where I should have been. I couldn't even see the playing field anymore. I'd been kicked off of it completely. And it was that. That was the moment that I was so content and ready to just be done.
Mm.
And it was easy to come home and just say, I'm done.
Wow. So being able to share your story and probably feeling validated, but also almost like an awakening and a
Yeah.
realization of where you were and what was going on.
Some of it was
Yeah.
just like needing to realize my own self-worth. And
Mhm.
some of it was, I'd stayed for a religion, I'd stayed for my kids, I'd stayed for the vows, I'd stayed because I was afraid I wasn't capable of being on my own. I had been told and I believed that I wasn't capable of doing it, which is bat crap crazy because like before we met, I owned my own house. Like I was a teenage mom, so I'd already kind of like been gritty. I was a gritty person and I'd gotten through college and I'd bought a house. When I met him, I was 27 with a kid and like owned a car and a house and like was I'm I am a highly capable human being. I am intelligent and I don't know
Right.
why I allowed myself to not believe that. I think maybe I second guessed myself because of emotionally what I was allowing myself to endure. Maybe I
Mhm.
am not good enough because like this keeps happening.
Right.
So,
Well, there are so many synchronicities in our stories because I too was 27 with a kid. I had my son when I was 21, so he was a little younger, but I was a professional. I think there's a misconception among women and men, maybe, that when you lose yourself in the way that you did, and you get to this point where you've been in this marriage for 10 years and you've been lost, that people who do that are going to be weak. And the truth is, more often than not, women who find themselves in this situation are strong, intelligent, gritty, capable. And I think that it plays into this story that we tell ourselves and why people stay so long is because they knew who they were before and they know that they're strong. And on the outside, they're still presenting that way. So, do you think the people around you saw you the same way you saw yourself at that time?
no, there was a really good front.
Mhm.
We were really good at presenting, like I was good at presenting social media when we were out networking at fundraisers. Um, you know, Business owner, lots of public facing. We looked good.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
about
on
you
paper.
on the inside? I think a kind of awakening moment for me was at one point I felt lost and totally in a fog. And my best friend said, "You don't see yourself the way other people see you," meaning other people see you as this strong, intelligent, powerful person. And I had been, it had been 15 years for me, and I saw myself as weak, also sick. I had autoimmune issues, inflammation. We just talked about before we got on the call.
So I don't mean to laugh.
Our
It's just so sad.
our bodies, I want to come back to the body because I think it's important, but I think it's really hard because you don't even, like you said, you don't realize what's happening. You don't realize you're losing yourself. You don't realize you're being erased. And in some ways, you're only being erased on the inside, but you are becoming what everyone needs you to be to get through and to survive. Did you feel that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a collapse of my whole identity
Mhm.
early on, like early on in the marriage. And I was blessed that about halfway through, I was able to start a career, which I'm so thankful for because it gave me so much power. It gave me financially the ability to leave easily.
Mhm.
It gave me confidence back. It allowed me to be empowered by empowering others, which is something that I'd lost for a long time. When we first got married, I'd had a job straight out of college, but I mean, I think it paid like $12 an hour or
Right.
something. So it was nothing great. And so when I married this physician, it was like, okay, like we want to have kids. I hate this job because they keep giving me title promotions, but like not monetary promotions. And
Mhm.
so we both agreed, like, hey, this isn't going to work. Shortly after that, almost like fate, God, something
Right.
put a position. Someone contacted me actually from the Alzheimer's Association to take on this really cool role within the organization, which would have been so great. It was near and dear to my heart. I'd lost my grandma to Alzheimer's. I'd been hosting huge fundraisers every year for the Alzheimer's Association through my job that I had just left, which is how they knew me. And I was so excited. And my ex-husband was not excited. He was actually like quite like not happy about it. And just to be, consistent with my word, because I was like, I had said, I think that I maybe would like to try staying at home and take my foot off the gas for a little while. And like, all I knew is that job that I'd had wasn't serving me. So I
Right.
had said, like, let me pivot. Maybe I'll try to stay at home and take care of the house and the kids since that would make more sense. But when this job opportunity came up, I was like, never mind, I want to do this. And he didn't like pivots like that. He didn't
Mhm.
like inconsistency with words.
Yeah.
Like a change of mind was not something that like settled well with him.
Right.
And that's fine. Like that's great. He's a very structured person. And I'm not. I'm kind of a butterfly, right?
Yeah.
And that just didn't compute. So instead of me fighting for my wings, I just clipped them. And that was a huge struggle for me because my identity as a stay-at-home mom, and some people find a lot of value in that. And I think that's a
Mhm.
beautiful role to be able to fulfill. I'm not good at it. I'm not Susie Homemaker. I fought really hard to do it, but it wasn't giving me life. And that was kind of a little bit of a slow erasure is to lose my identity as someone who had fought so hard to raise my daughter, go to school, survive,
Yeah.
get a house, get a job, all these things. And now I just felt like what I had identified with in my identity was gone. And I had my kiddos, and it was so funny because I started volunteering for like every nonprofit. I chaired every board. I started a nonprofit. Like, I was doing everything that I could to work while not working, which
Right.
was kind of
Right.
defeating the purpose. And so, blessingly, and I'm saying this like my identity and stuff was all like tied to my career. It is like
Yeah.
my value is in my profession and my ability to use my intelligence for something creative and social and positive. So in 2018, we had a private practice and he'd come to me and said like, hey, financing right now, things are just a little tight. Could you get a job? And I'm like, what am I going to do that's going to move the needle enough to make sense compared to your income, right? As a
Right.
physician compared to what I could do. I'm a kinesiology major. Like I'm going to personal train in the morning and evenings. Like what are we going to do for daycare?
Right.
It didn't balance. Nothing made sense. So he had recommended to me real estate. And I was like, I guess. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me because who would have thought it would have grown to the immensity that it has and set me on this path for freedom financially, freedom in my own spirit to be able to, yeah, see my confidence in myself again, to start regaining that truth of like, I'm really good at helping and serving others and leading and creating outside of the box endeavors. I might not be the implementer of those things, but I've got the ideas and I can facilitate the heck out of other people doing them.
Yes, yes. We need to look at your human design and see if you're a manifester because so many things resonate with me. And
I
I
am.
feel you are a
Yeah.
manifester. Okay. I
Yeah.
am. And I can't even, I'm not going to backtrack and say all of the things that were so similar, but I
And I'm an
too,
ENFJ, which I think also tracks
I
like
am
very
also an ENFJ. So it's so funny. You're
clip.
not a Pisces, are you?
No, I'm a Virgo, but I'm not a
Okay.
normal Virgo.
Okay.
I'm a Virgo butterfly. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Well, you might have Pisces in your chart. I'm a Virgo ascending. So
Okay.
the Virgo perfectionism parts kind of rise up
I
in me
have some
sometimes.
perfectionism, but I'm also a little, I can be messy. So
Yeah,
it's,
me too.
I'm not your standard Virgo.
Right. Virgo Pisces combination are interesting. Anyway, I
Right.
think that so many of us give up our career, especially in these types of relationships where the earning potential for our spouse is so high that it's hard to make it make sense for us to work. And the demands on their time are so high that, for me at least, I felt like someone had to be home with the kids. Somebody had to because it was obvious he was never going to be able to. And a lot of a lot of women go through this same struggle, and we're designed, you and I are designed to get so much joy from our purpose. And our purpose isn't necessarily just to raise children. We have so much to offer others and offer the world and our creativity. And for me, that not having that and being, and I don't want to say just a stay-at-home mom because it's
I
an
know.
enormous
It's hard.
responsibility and it's the hardest job I
It's full time
did.
all the time.
It's the hardest job I've ever had because when you leave work, I left a law firm, everything, it's assumed everything is on you now. Everything. The house, the kids, and it's a tremendous amount of responsibility. And I struggled with getting help with the kids. I struggled. I didn't like that identity. It didn't feel like it was mine. It never felt comfortable. I didn't like being labeled the doctor's wife. I didn't like being labeled a stay-at-home mom. I did exactly what you did. I started chairing as many committees and taking on as many responsibilities at their school as I could
Yeah.
to make me feel like I was contributing something. And it made me feel needed. And even though I was needed at home, it's such a rewardless job, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I think things come into our lives when we need them to. And you and I talked before this a little bit about everyone's path out of the marriage can look has to look different, right? We all leave at different times. And for you, you did have this opportunity to start working again and build yourself up and have more financial independence and freedom at the point when you finally left. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like me. I stayed at home. I hadn't worked for 10 years. I wasn't a marketable attorney. That was not an option anymore. And it also wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for people to understand that everyone's journey is different. And for those people in my situation who did stay home and have to rebuild, that's a possibility too. If you don't have several years in a new career to build up your financial freedom, there are ways to get re-educated. And for me, it's been an opportunity to choose exactly what I want to do and take the time to figure that out with my authenticity back intact because I felt like I had lost that. You and I also talked about you really minimizing your experience and comparing it to others, and that keeping you there longer because convincing yourself that it wasn't that bad. Can you talk about that and how you realized it and what got you past doing that?
I think most of it is just like physiologically, whenever you get a virus and your body's immune system supports you through that, and then it prevents you from probably getting sick from that virus again anytime soon. It's like I had a psychological immune system that was built up in such a way for survival. It was easier to just not face it and pack it away and keep moving through life because it wasn't like a frequent, like, our moments of chaos within and turbulence within our marriage. It wasn't frequent. I'd seen in movies. It wasn't as, I would say, as I've seen in movies and I've seen articles about and read books about, but it was not good in a lot of really bad ways. Physically, psychologically, emotionally, there was a lot of really bad stuff that was going on behind the scenes. And it was just this, I think it was just a way that I was trying to preserve and protect my sanity because if I opened up Pandora's box and really looked at it the way that I did when I was with my friend divulging to her everything, when I looked at it all, it
Yeah,
was just too much. And so like you just slam the lid back down and you're like, nope, that's going back on the shelf because today I'm getting the kids ready and I'm going to work and I'm doing all these things and it's probably going to be a good day. So like, why are we going to open that box right now and revisit this?
yeah,
The moments of chaos were contained for the most part to moments. It was a night or whatever. And
yeah,
so when the next day everything's awkwardly fine again and we're not going to talk about it and we're just going to pretend like everything's fine. This is my specific experience. I was just like, you know what? It's safer to just be like, okay, like tiptoe out of this like scary place. We're good now. Okay, we're just going to go
yeah,
back to work. And that's just how I was functioning.
yeah.
Not realizing that box was kind of like bursting at the seams and I was bursting at the seams. That
Right,
self-abandonment and self-sacrificial slaughter, which is just like an aggressive word, so that's maybe not what I mean, but that's kind of what I felt like. I just felt like I was self-sacrificing
right,
on repeat.
right. So you were persevering, that it was really self-abandonment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had this epiphany, I guess, a few months ago about like how I have endured life. And it's so funny because I'm a kinesiology major. I coach CrossFit. So like I've gone through these phases of life where pain and endurance is something that like was respected. You think about getting physically strong, you think about, doing repetition under stress.
hmm,
And if you want to get stronger, it's either more stress, more weight, or more reps. And in college, I was a runner, which was probably good for me because I hate school. That is just like sitting in the same classroom, listening to the same thing. Like, that is not me. Real estate's good for me because I'm here, I'm there, never, nothing's ever the same. And I
yeah,
like that's the life that I need. College was brutal. So being an endurance runner during that time and jogging, I was teaching myself to endure really awful long things that have an ultimate goal that are positive for me,
yeah,
but that I don't enjoy. So I did that. And then when I was in CrossFit later on in my 20s and I was coaching, I loved it because at the time I was kind of angry. I had like, just your 20s, you're kind of angsty, you're kind of angry. And I had all this pain that I needed to get out. And when I
hmm,
was in these classes and I was doing these workouts, like, I could put my brain almost like I could slip into this dark room when I was in the middle of this workout, and it didn't matter how many reps or minutes or whatever sets I had left. I could be in this dark room and I'm like, okay, out there my body hurts, but in here I don't feel anything. Like I have an ultimate goal. I know that I can endure this. I know that I could actually go faster right now. I'm not going
yeah,
to die. And I was push. And mentally for me, that was so invigorating. And in work and in so many situations where the end goal is a positive thing, I think being an endurance runner is great. I think persevering and pushing through a hard thing is great, as long as the ultimate goal is getting you somewhere that's going to land you some in a positive way.
Right.
In a workout, you're getting stronger, you're getting more fit, you're improving your health. In work, you're achieving a goal, you're getting a promotion, you're whatever. In a
Hmm.
relationship, is persevering and fighting like crazy, getting you to a better place within yourself and with that connection with that person? Or is it just driving you further from the ultimate goal of the path that we should be leading? And
Wow.
that's only been something that I've kind of reflected on more recently, that I'm like, I knew that the end goal was not good. There was no communication. There wasn't emotional maturity to be able to work through things intelligently. It was just, and I was handling things so stupid. I kept thinking, I'm like, if I'm lovable enough, he'll love me.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if I fit in the box that he thinks that he needs, let me like contort myself and shrink myself and minimize myself and erase myself to fit into some box that was never designed for me for his benefit. And maybe then there will be enough peace that I can be joyful. You know, like
Right.
happy wasn't the goal. It was just like peace and some resemblance of joy. And I just don't think that there was ever an option of getting there, either through
Yeah.
endurance or pain or shifting or contorting. It wasn't possible. And I now know what that end goal looks like for
Mhm.
future relationships and when to stop fighting or enduring.
I think endurance in a relationship can look good if you're not having to contort yourself and change who you are, and you can both show up authentically, because relationships are hard. But endurance in a relationship with the wrong person is just so destructive. It's so destructive. And so, what do you feel, what have you done to identify that? Have you done any work? Have you worked with a therapist, done your own
Yeah.
work?
Yeah. So I was in EMDR for basically the entire first year throughout like the divorce and then
Mhm,
afterwards as well. And that was really important. I'm a Christian and I was having some really big issues identifying with my faith towards the end of my marriage. I was
mhm,
angry and resentful, and that's been fully restored. And so I've found a lot of comfort in my community and then also just with the word and being present with understanding what it was that I'd gone through. And it's so funny because I take it a little bit religious. Towards the end of the marriage, I just I was like looking at people in the Bible and how much they'd suffered and endured in the name of Jesus and supporting the word and the message. And I was like being a martyr almost and thinking,
mhm.
well, again, comparing myself to other people's pain, like if they endured that,
Right,
I can
right.
endure this marriage for the sake of the vows that I professed to my faith. And I was so angry over it. I'm like, well, then why am I being hurt repeatedly? Why is like I don't feel closer to God by being in this relationship. I
Mm,
feel further away from myself and all of this. And it was so funny because it's still hard for me to say out loud. I almost feel like God was calling me to step away from the marriage because it wasn't serving him nor me, not bringing me closer to God. And
yeah,
I still struggle saying those words because I believed for a long time, and I know others believe God would never pull you out of a marriage. He
yep,
wants you to be union. You are one flesh. This is one. But I will say the restored relationship that I have with my faith and with God and how personal of a relationship I have with Jesus now compared to then makes me know for certain that a lot of that anguish that I was feeling was being pulled away from a situation that I was not called to be in.
yeah, yeah,
And I was called to be here and now and alone and present and finding myself and finding my faith in him. And my kid's faith is on fire. My 21-year-old daughter is, ugh, there's been a lot of transformation in all of us in this home
yeah.
for the good.
That's incredible, and I'm so glad that you talked about that, because I think it is a tremendous part of the battle that we face inside, is facing, our faith and what we grew up believing, or what we were taught in church or within our religion, what's okay as far as leaving a marriage. I grew up, I don't want to say grew up, but until I was 8, my family was part of the Catholic Church. And when my own parents were divorced, we were not allowed to come back to church anymore. And so the amount of religious trauma that I have is tremendous, but believing that I was committing like this incredible, the worst possible sin by leaving the marriage kept me there a lot longer. And I had to do something very similar. I took a more spiritual route and reprocessed a lot of the trauma that I had from my childhood experience with religion, which was really helpful. But I think well, I love your story because not only did you have to work through it and figure this out, it strengthened your faith and your relationship with Jesus. And so I think many people feel like they can't continue on in their Christianity and leave if they were brought up in a certain denomination. So,
I can remember having this mantra. I had mantras that like got me through my marriage in my head. Like, I can do this. I can endure, endure, endure. And the last year, I know it sounds terrible, but my mantra was, I don't care. I don't care. And it wasn't like I didn't care about him. I just was
mhm,
trying to not care about like the expectations and the bullet point lists that I was getting presented with all the time of like the things that I was doing wrong. I just stopped. I was just like, I can't care about this. I can't keep defending myself and caring. And after I filed for divorce, and even before I filed for divorce, I remember saying, maybe it was to my pastor's wife or something, and I'm like, God won't give you more than you can handle. And she was like, whoa, 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 stop you right there. What? Like, bring it on. Like, I can carry all the stuff. Like, he won't give me, like, I can handle everything. He wouldn't give me more than I'm capable of carrying. And she was like, don't ever say that again. She was like, because he will absolutely give you more than you can handle. You're supposed to
mm,
give it to him.
yeah.
And I remember being like, well, that makes a lot of sense. He is trying to bury me in all of this right now to get me to cry out to him. And I can
Mhm.
remember the day that I did, we were going through the divorce. I was selling our marital home, which I was devastated over because I had not wanted to uproot my kids' lives, but whatever. And I was full speed ahead, just trying to get this divorce over with as quickly as possible, which I filed in February. It was done in July. And we owned like 3 properties and 5 businesses and a I
Wow.
mean, like we owned a lot of stuff. So we were able to like just chop it off and get it done. There are some regrets there, but it was fast, right? And so I moved
Mhm.
out of this house. And I remember the day I was moving out, I literally on my knees, like in child's pose in the living room of this new house with my palms out, like and up, just lost it. Like, and I remember my palms were facing the ceiling and thinking like it was almost like a platter of
Yeah.
all the ick that I was carrying and all the grief and all the resentment and pain. And I just gave it to him. And it
Mm.
was almost like exactly how she had said, it's more than you can handle, give it to him. And I physically like did. And I've had to do it over and over.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was kind of a nice cathartic way to restore my faith. Like, I think that was my pivotal moment of just it was too much. So I
Yeah.
just fell to my knees.
I think surrender, which is what I would call it, is
Yeah.
such a huge part of this. And regardless of what your beliefs are, having any spiritual belief in a higher power and surrendering whatever all the things, because you're right, like if we allow it, we will just keep getting things piled on, right? Until we surrender and let go. There's like a letting go, a
Break.
surrender,
I mean, the
and
other option is breaking under the weight of it all.
correct, correct. So I think finding your relationship with whatever, whether it's the universe, God, Jesus, whomever it is, putting your trust in them and letting go and surrendering is it's part of the story I hear over and over and over again. And it means survival. And it allows you to start finding yourself again. And I love hearing that your relationship with Jesus and your faith and Christianity has been almost restored because I think a lot of people believe that they're going to have to let go of that part of them in order to let go of the marriage. And it's just not true at all.
No, there's definitely a twinge of shame that you feel like when you walk
Mhm.
back in the church doors and you feel like you're wearing the scarlet letter because, oh, like, everybody's first assumption is someone cheated, which was not the case in
Yep.
our marriage. But I
Every
feel like
time.
everybody thinks someone cheated. And, so I'm sure that there were whispers and gossips. And maybe there wasn't. I have no idea. But I was met with love. I know that, like, when I first walked in, I kind of felt like a dog with my tail between my legs. How
Mhm.
am I going to be received right now? And I was
Yeah.
received with love, which I think is like typically in today's day and age where the church has gone and meets you. So,
Yeah, and I think that if that's not where your church is, then find one that
yeah,
that is, because they're definitely out there. I became very cynical as well and was kind of like, I'm not going there, right? I'm not going to walk in and feel that shame because I felt it as a child. So there was no way. Like, nope, we're not reliving that trauma. But now, having done so much work in healing, I have a whole different view of it. And I think it's just everyone has to go through their healing process with their faith or their spirituality in the way that works for them. It can look very different, but it is such a huge part of getting through this. You can do as much therapy and self work as you want, but without some faith in a higher power, it is harder, I believe. Because
yeah,
this is going through a divorce, making the decision to leave, or some people don't get to make the decision, it's forced upon them. But it is one of the bravest things that you will do, especially
scariest.
as a woman. It's not an easy path. It takes an extreme amount of endurance, as you said. And the payoff, though, if it wasn't worth salvaging the marriage and you can endure the process, I kind of want to move on to the other side because I think that is the most important thing for people to hear is that, yeah, it was hard being married. It was hard getting unmarried. And I call it untangling.
I like the word unmarried more than divorce. I think you
Yeah.
should like coin that.
Well, I like unmarried, but I like untangling because there's so much we entangle, right? Even in there's so much tangling, like and
Mm.
intertwining, and the process of untangling is long and tedious and not great in parts. But once we are untangled and can find ourselves again, it's really beautiful on the other side. So I want to talk about life on the other side, what that's looked like for you and what are some things that has surprised you that you didn't think would be as great as they are?
My quiet house, I love it now. It was the most uncomfortable thing on the face of the planet
Mhm.
when I was first separated and the kids were at their dad's house. And if the house was quiet, I was just unraveling. I was calling my friends. I was trying to go out. I was randomly swiping dating apps just to like get out of the house, just anything. I just like the quiet. I was doom scrolling. I had music on. I had a TV on. Like I couldn't just sit. And honestly, I mean, I'm almost 2 years out from announcing the separation, a year and a half out, more or less, from the divorce being finalized. And it's only been in the last few months that I've really embraced it. Like to be
Mm,
alone is to know yourself and to be comfortable with yourself. And I've found a way to do that. I love the skin I'm in. I love the person I am. I love how much more emotionally intelligent I can be now that I don't have this frying pan in my brain, just muddling my thoughts at all times because I was just in fight or flight all the time.
yeah.
I'm at peace and my house is at peace and I just feel this energy at rest within myself. I think that's probably like my favorite. It hasn't been until recently. I never thought that I would love this aloneness. I actually took a vacation by myself to
Mm.
Cancun a
Oh,
few months
wow.
ago. Just on a
Wow.
random Wednesday, I was like, I don't want to be here this weekend. So on Friday, I flew out by myself. I stayed in a resort for like 4 days by myself in Isla Mujeres. And it was probably like the best vacation I've ever taken. I just had a book and the beach. I didn't drink. I just enjoyed myself. I don't know. It
Wow.
was the most beautiful experience to just be alone. And so that's probably my favorite and most surprising thing that's come out of this on the other side.
I love that. I found meditation and mindfulness during the divorce process, and it really saved me and got me through a program called mindfulness-based stress reduction was the intro. But then once I realized just how much my creative juices could flow when I was meditating, I was like, "Oh, this is incredible. I can find myself in this quiet space." So that was also something for me that I enjoyed. There's also a shift in the energy in my home, even when the kids are there. I was able to buy my own house after a year or so after the divorce was all final. And actually, not even a year, probably 4 or 5 months. But the shift in energy in my home was an unexpected relief and source of peace. Have you found that?
My gosh. I have become a huge believer in energy and whatever that is that's coursing through every single thing that you can see and not see. And like I'd said, I mean, probably like one of the things that I was most coveting of and fighting over and like being ticked and latching onto was our marital home and, like resentfully selling that. I was devastated. But even moving into the rental temporarily, I'm like, oh, wait, even though this house is like a lot crummier or whatever than like the last one that I just came from, more or less, it just felt different. And then
Hmm.
same, I bought a home a few months after that, and I don't know. Yeah, the energy in these walls, the energy that I share with my kids now is just so much more relaxed.
Mm.
I'm more relaxed with my kids. I feel like when I was on edge all the time, just because of like everything that I was going through, I was short with my kids.
Yep.
I was quick temper. I was easily frazzled by like sounds. Stop making noises, quit
Yep.
bouncing a ball. Just I remember like the fan over the oven when I'm cooking, when that was on, I almost felt like my head was going to explode, like that buzzing fan sound. And
Yeah.
turning that off was such a sweet relief. I don't have that anymore. I just feel
Yeah.
so much more regulated. And part of it is just the energy within myself that is then transferring into the home that my kids are able to come home to. And then they have, it's just a really, and I think that they have that at their dad's house too. I
Yeah.
think that both homes are really consistent with one another, which is really important.
Yeah.
One of the very first things that happened when I told him, I'm like, I am done. Like, I know that we've like thrown this out there a few times before. This is not a throwing out. This is
Yeah.
a me throwing in the towel. I'm done. And I think it was like the next day we called and got an appointment with a therapist for our kiddos.
Yeah.
Before we told them anything, we got them established. We got through Thanksgiving, we got through Christmas, we got through New Year. And then when it was finally time, and I'm like, okay, I have filed, it is time.
Yeah.
We had a joint session with the therapist, with my ex husband, with my oldest daughter, and myself. And we all sat down in a room together and explained to them what was happening, let them ask questions. I think that that was probably the smartest thing that we did
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
divorce because it's allowed for an easier transition and it hasn't been perfect. There's definitely been some like moments of tension between my ex-husband and I just having differing opinions on something because that's
Yeah.
usually the only thing that ever causes chaos between us is a differing in opinion. But ultimately, like we both prioritize our children. We both care about our children. We care about each other as parents. So we're good about accommodating, switching dates and not like taking time away from the other parent, which I'm so grateful for.
Right.
They have consistent bedtimes at each home. They eat healthily at both homes. Like we're both really good at giving them consistent homes. So their energy is great.
How old are your
Mine's great.
kids?
The home is great. I have a 21-year-old, so she's living here actually. She's a real estate agent with me. She works at my church as a youth leader.
No, I love
She's
that.
a nursing student and a lacrosse athlete. So
Wow.
she's busy.
Yeah.
She may live here, but she's never here. She gets food from the fridge and then she leaves. And then I have an 8 and a 10-year-old. They're actually almost 9 and 11.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. So many things to potentially unpack there, but I
I know
think
that was a lot.
the biggest one, um, are you surprised based on how things were during your marriage, how well you co-parent and how well everyone gets along now? Did you see that
I
coming?
wouldn't say that we get along.
Okay.
We are mandated to communicate through a parenting app, and that's for boundaries, just so that communication can't unwind and spiral.
Hmm.
We're very cordial to one another when we see each other, particularly in front of the kids. There have been a couple of moments of some tension, but
Okay.
nothing like chaotic. As long as we keep it to the kids, we're mostly cordial. If there's a differing opinion on whatever it is that we're thinking about the kids, that can get a little tense.
Yeah.
Um, but it's what I expected, but there's some pretty firm boundaries in place so
Okay.
that my peace is protected. I definitely went through a phase where just receiving a message like caused everything in my system to just
Light up.
light up. And I went through a phase when ChatGPT first came out that like every single thing that he messaged me, I just screenshot it, I put it in there, I said, you come up with an answer, and I would just copy and paste it back because like literally forming words to him was just causing too much stress. And like I
Yeah.
couldn't read, like I would get like message on message. And I was just like, nope, I need to disassociate. So I'm not going to read this and I'm not going to come up with
Hmm.
an answer. And so that
Yeah.
was kind of a way to allow me a little bit of space
Yeah.
to learn how to regulate myself.
Yep.
I do not use ChatGPT anymore. I hate, and I would always like, it's so validating no matter who you are and what side you are. Like, it is a liar. Don't listen to it.
Right.
So I do not agree with using ChatGPT like a whole heck of a lot, but it was used for a time and a purpose to get me through a phase, and
Yeah.
that served me really well.
Yeah. It was your coping strategy. So during the divorce process, was it more difficult than it is now that you're on the other side?
Yeah. I mean, there were just way more stages of grief intertwined with the uncoupling, intertwined with, he really didn't want the marriage to end. And so there was a lot of, anger and then love bombing and then, you know, resentment and then kindness and then, being amendable and then being very disagreeable. And
Hmm.
it was a whiplash because you never
Yeah.
just knew for me what version I was going to get, but
Hmm.
I recognized it for what it was, thankfully, as just his dysregulation and his stages of grief and his
Yeah.
way of coping with whatever he was dealing with in that moment. So, for the most part, I was able to kind of, like I said, disengage and not take it too seriously because
Good.
at the end of the day, luckily, he's a fairly logical person. And so, like, once he regulated and we could get to a point, we had one mediation meeting and it was done for
Yeah.
the most part.
Yeah.
Couple back and forths after that, but it was fairly fair.
So I have a potentially challenging, the right word, but question that you do not have to answer. But I'm curious, and I think it would be helpful
Mhm.
if you want to answer. Many people in your situation experience almost like a relapse of a trauma bond during the divorce process, which creates, I guess, sudden craving or uncontrollable desire and questioning of their decision to leave, which is usually kind of surprising, shocking, unforeseen, and really confusing for people. Did you have any moments like that during the process once the divorce was
Yeah,
initiated?
not once the divorce was filed, but that time frame between like November of 23 when I told him that I was done. And then like going through that, we went to Disney with the kids. We got through Thanksgiving and, Christmas and New Year. And then, the kids had birthdays. So I was like, well, we'll just hold off a little bit longer. Like I was just, I don't know. I was having a hard time and he'd be in the basement, but I'd be lonely and I'd be like, can you come up here and like, you know what I mean? So there were
Yeah.
definitely like some moments of weakness. And there was one time that we were intimate, either right before or right after, like right when I filed for the divorce. And a lot of that was just utter grief,
Yeah.
maybe a farewell. And it was kind of deplorable because the reason for me filing at the very end was due to something just unforeseen and unforgivable that I can't unsee, that I'm not going to get into, but it's just for me to be intimate with him again kind of disgusts me a little bit that I would do that, but it was also just part of the grief and part of what happened.
Yeah.
I didn't trauma bond with him again after I filed for divorce. He was out of the house pretty quickly, but I also jumped into a different relationship with a boyfriend that was more of a trauma bond that kept me and prevented me from probably slipping back to my ex-husband, which I am grateful for, but that has opened up its own can of worms.
All right. Well, can we talk about that a little bit? Because I think this is I kind of asked you if we could touch on it a little bit. I think that one of the greatest concerns I had, and that many of the people that I work with have, is that they won't have another relationship. They'll be lonely forever. They going to meet someone. Some people question whether they should seek out another relationship to get them through the divorce process. Some people do that.
Guilty.
So let's talk about that as much as you want to. I don't want to push. I definitely
I'm kind
want
of an open
to
book
keep
on
it in your
this.
comfort.
So yeah, no, no, no. After I'd filed for divorce, we were still living in the same house. He was in a separate area, and we were trying to do some custody type of like things where it's like you get him in the basement for a couple nights, and then I get him upstairs for a couple, you know what I mean? But it
Yeah,
was still just like a lot of overlap of space. So on his quote unquote custody nights, I was leaving the house, and my friends all have kids and are married, so it's like I didn't have people to hang out with. So I was swiping some apps because I was like, well, I filed, like I wonder what this is gonna. So I'm like literally weeks out. I will say, like emotionally, I had been detached for a very, very time by this
yeah,
point, and it was kind of like shiny, new, exciting, highly inappropriate. Went on some dates, they were horrific. Went on one, and it was wonderful. He was so nice and happy and charming and kind. I kind of liked him because like he'd not had the easiest life. So for me, not coming out of something that wasn't easy, it was kind of nice to be with someone that could see that within me and have enough empathy and hold it and
yeah,
vice versa. You know what I mean? Like people that
yeah.
haven't been through abuse and whatever, they're just like, why would you? I just feel judged almost by them. Like, why would you stay? Like, what's wrong with
Right,
you? Like,
right.
why are you not smart or something?
Yeah.
He wasn't like that. He definitely held space. He helped me. Man, those first few months of being in a relationship with him during that time, I leaned on him far too much. It was a responsibility that I should not have put on him. I was not 100% okay. Obviously, I was talking about kneeling and crying and grieving and giving a plate to God of all my baggage, but he wonderful, and ultimately that pressure that I put on him created a foundation that just wasn't something that could be resolved in our relationship. And
Mm.
we still communicate. We're still kind of untangling. Gosh, it's been almost 2 years and it's off and it's on. And I've dated other people and I still care about him immensely because he was this huge healing presence during
Mm.
one of the hardest times of my life. But yeah, I got a little trauma bonded there. That was a little tough.
So you have a trauma bond with the post-divorce
Yeah.
relationship. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, it sounds like that was something that you needed to get through,
hmm,
and it got you through the process. And
I do.
now, yeah,
And I will say,
yeah.
I have met, I've dated, like I said, I've dated a few other people, and there've been great guys. Some that just like, don't quite hit it for. There's lots of options out there. It's fine. They're wonderful. Two of them were probably like the most emotionally intelligent human beings I've ever conversed with
Mm.
in my life, which has been this beautiful juxtaposition of what I've experienced in the past. Is like there are men that are like so self-aware and so mature and so intelligent and want to have these beautiful deep conversations. One of them to this day is this like best friend of mine.
Oh, I
We've
love
actually
that.
traveled together some, just a wonderful human being. I didn't really date him at all, but like it's just this relationship that has manifested. And then another one I'm actually like kind of talking to right now, so I'm not going to speak anything into fruition, but he's very nice, he's very kind, he's very wonderful so far. So on paper everything's checking, but it's way too early to get like excited. I keep telling him, I'm like, okay, I need a break. Like my dopamine is too high. I don't want to
Right.
confuse this for feelings that I have for you, so we're gonna you or talk to you in a few days. Like I
Like
don't want to talk
slow
to you every
down.
day.
Yeah.
Let's slow down. Like, yes, I like you, but like I like myself more right now. So we're gonna preserve that for a while.
So if you were coming to you and saying, should I swipe while I'm in the divorce process or should I work on myself and wait? Which would you recommend? Is that a fair question? I'm not sure if it's a fair question, having
No, I don't know.
just
Like
heard.
I wouldn't It's hard. I wouldn't necessarily change much about what I did. I will say that like my ex-husband found out about the guy that I was seeing pretty quickly and it was pretty quick and that caused a lot of more mental instability in my ex-husband. Like I said, I was understanding of why he was so chaotic in his behavior.
Yeah,
That hurt him
yeah,
horribly. I mean, think of it on the other side. Like if
yeah.
that is something that you had to experience from the partner that's, on the other end of this divorce. And I
Shockingly.
know that I put him through that and I hate that
Yeah,
personally and selfishly. I do like that I had a crutch that helped me
yeah,
emotionally get through
yeah,
until I could be at a place to get my feet underneath me so that I could start somatically understanding what I was even feeling, like tension here, my stomach pain, all these things that were going on. This brought me so much peace
Mhm.
that I was able to start taking those moments of peace and reflecting to myself, like how to forgive and where does forgiveness start? Well, first you have to draw closer to the issue at hand,
Right.
the thing that hurt you. You have to get closer to it, and that's not a comfortable thing. But
Mm-mm.
when I had someone that was really grounding, and I hate that. I use this guy, but he's wonderful, and
Yeah.
there is no right or wrong answer there.
I don't think so either. I think I was enjoying the journey of healing myself, if that makes sense. It
Yeah.
was somewhat torturous, like somewhat, like you said, endurance. It takes an incredible amount of endurance to do really, really deep healing work. So the mindfulness-based stress reduction, the EMDR sessions, just like I was as deep as I could go into therapy to figure myself out. And also coping with the divorce process, which is in and of itself is just brutal. Ours wasn't as short as yours, wasn't super long, but I can say on the opposite side, yes, finding out we were near the end of the process, I was the leaver. I can't even describe the feeling and the confusion of finding out and realizing like that he had moved on. And
Yeah.
in retrospect, now I'm glad that he did, but it was still so confusing and so painful. And I would say that was when I had a tremendous amount of doubt. Look
Yeah.
back and say, all right, I was strong enough. I got through it. I had therapists and like people in
Mhm.
place to support me figure it
Yeah,
out
I
for themselves.
pursued, I mean, like there was multiple reasons why I pursued the divorce being pushed I mean, my ex-husband was pushing for the divorce to be as quick as possible either. This was his third divorce, so he was an expert.
Oh,
This was my
wow.
first and only. Um, and his other ones had just been like easy, sign on the dotted line. There was nothing to split. There was nothing. So this was a lot different. We had,
Right.
three
Kids
homes,
and
two were investment properties. We had two kids. We had
right.
two medical practices. I had my real estate business and another company that I own and operate called Moving Medicine Partners. And there was a lot. And so he'll said I'm a martyr, but I did have to take on the burden and the weight of selling all the homes myself. Our
Mm.
marital home, I had to prep, and the guy that I was telling you about that kind of stepped in and was my boyfriend during that time, luckily he had owned a truck and trailers and a dump truck, honestly, like all this stuff that it was like serendipitous that like I just loaded it up. I threw so much of our stuff away, which I feel guilty over. It was thousands and thousands of pounds worth of stuff that we'd accumulated in this giant home. I put my wedding dress in there, which at the time felt really good, but in retrospect, I'm like, that was so wasteful. Like I just was so distraught. And
Mhm.
I was in the middle of my busy season. I was trying to sell this house in May on top of running all these businesses, on top of the kids, on top of the divorce, painting and cleaning and whatever. And it was a CrossFit workout. It was like the
Yeah.
most brutal, just put your head in a dark space, put your head down, like fight and grit and whatever. And there was a couple times during the divorce process, I told you that I have all these like mantras that got me through.
Yeah.
The one during the divorce really was the cost of freedom. And I just, I didn't fight on a lot. I would say my piece, I would give an opinion, I would give an explanation for the opinion. And if there was a barrier that I just didn't feel like fighting.
Yeah.
And I was easy to just say that's the cost of freedom. I was in a different position because
Mm.
I was making more money than my husband by that time, which was a little odd because, he's a physician quite a bit older than me. But I was willing to just put my hands up and say, I can make more money. I can I just need free
Right.
of all of this. I need free of this home. I need free of this stress. I need free of this process. I need freedom so that I can be with this guy that I really like right now. I wanted to be free of the chains that I felt like I'd been tethered to for so long. And so, just getting in retrospect, I'm like, how did I do all that? How did I sell three houses of my own while simultaneously, like buying and selling like 20 something other homes for other people during that time,
Wow.
with the
Wow.
divorce and everything else? It was a lot.
Yeah, I think we get through, and when we need to, we can bear a lot and take on a lot. So,
God can give you more than you can handle, though. So
it
give it up if it gets too much.
Right. Let go of the things that don't really matter. And that's kind of what you're saying. The
Yeah.
comfort of freedom or the cost of freedom might mean letting go
I'd
of
had a
some
friend that
things.
had just gotten divorced a couple years before, and I'd seen this divorce drag on for years over principle. Really, it was really just like principle. She's like, "Well, I just don't feel like it's fair, and he shouldn't be able to do that." And I'm like, "Well, okay, well then if we're just gonna keep on going with it, like I seen, some credit card debt, like I just in the grand scheme of things, I was just like, it made me look at everything differently. I
Mhm.
didn't want to endure the length and the process that she did and the
Mhm.
attorney fees. That just
Oh,
makes you angry over and over, no offense, but like,
right.
oy,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think all in, I was like 7 grand in an attorney fee and maybe less.
Wow. That's
It was it
incredible.
was it was quick, but it was because I didn't fight,
Right.
but I was in
Right.
a position where I could do that. So,
Right. You were. And that's
yeah, there's
not
no child
everyone is in
support,
that position.
there's no money being like there's no monthly payments to either of us.
Right. Right.
Assets it just was split however the mediator felt was fair for the most part. So, like custody's 50-50. I didn't push on that. So, there wasn't battles
Yeah.
there was a hill that I was going to die on outside of like, those things.
Right. Right. Those are the things that really do hold things up. The 50-50 and the alimony and
Support.
child support, like
Yeah.
are the that prolong the process, I think. And for people who need that, it's worth it to stay in it as long as they need to. But I think people forget that they can go back and make modifications. And so sometimes they get hung up on things that they could be moving along in the process and go back. It's not recommended. It's more money and but
Yeah.
moving on, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're doing now with your career because it's really I love
Mhm.
it. And I don't know, I feel like you are glowing and you are thriving. And we talked a little bit, you're out there in the dating scene and it's not sound terrible, which is great.
The apps are
And
terrible. Don't get me wrong. The apps are
right, the
bad,
apps are
but every
terrible. Although my boyfriend about 3 months post divorce from the day my I sit into the apps for the first time in my life. The night my papers were signed. My little boy
oh,
walked through
nice.
the door with the papers, and I was like, all right, let's see. This
Celebrate and you're like, "What
is
is this? This is
right.
terrible."
Well, I me feel a lot of things. Now, one of the first people I met that night became kind of like you, like became a friend and almost like a mentor. I was attracted to him and I was like, oh, this guy's already talking to me. But what happened is we ended up meeting up and he was just a year post divorce and we'd have um we had an intellectual connection, but not an intimate connection at all. But he became like a mentor. And he was like, you haven't dated for 20 years.
Yeah.
Go on 10 dates with people that you don't care about. Like, just say yes 10 times
Mhm.
because you need practice and confidence. And I was like, I don't like it. I was never a big dater even before. Like, so I met him and he became this mentor and gave me all of this incredible advice and helped me see how much I loved myself. I already did love myself, but he really shined a light on it and was like, "No, you this good. Like you've done an incredible amount of work on yourself. You are ready." And it also helped me realize like I was ready to love probably for the first time, really love somebody.
Yeah.
So when my boyfriend walked into my life or swiped in on Hinge, um, I was really ready. Not initially, we met and then we never met in person. We met on the app. And then a month and a half passed and we re-met and re-engaged and met in person and then we were ready. So that's, you know, and everybody's story is different. But what I want to hear about before we wrap up, because I know we are running over on time a little bit, is the success you found, the joy you found in your work, and your career and like that it seems like you're really thriving. So tell me about like what you're doing and how it's filling you up and how it's
Yeah.
different now versus when you were still married and we were
Much
taking off.
different. So when I was married, I was starting to taste success in real estate, and I didn't get into it really to have this robust career. I was just trying to appease my ex-husband and the financial gap that we had. And I'm like, I mean, I can do this. And if I get a couple transactions, cool, maybe I can buy a purse or something, like joking, but Um, and about just like a year in, I ended up helping a friend that was a resident physician or just done with training, moved to St. Louis, and helped him acquire a physician loan and get settled within a certain commute time of the hospital because he was an OBGYN. And I was just like, oh, that felt good to help someone that's living this like similar lifestyle as me, like someone in medicine. They're just getting out of training, which has been horrendous. Like they have a ton of debt. They don't really know the city. Like I really liked that. And so I started specializing here in St. Louis, helping physicians, particularly the ones coming in for match day, just because like that's such a chaotic time of year for anybody that
Right.
doesn't know. Third week of March on a Friday, every med school across the country, their fourth year med school students open an envelope that tells them where they're moving to. And they have to be moved and settled by like the middle of June for orientation. So they have, a 2-month window while still finishing med school to find a place to live and relocate somewhere, not of their choosing necessarily in the United
Yeah.
States. And so for those coming to St. Louis, like I have become that person. And um, 3 years ago, I just had the 3-year anniversary of this business. I actually decided that I started an organization. I was going to start a brokerage where like every city, kind of like Berkshire Hathaway or Compass or whatever,
Yeah.
was going to have a moving medicine office. And I was like, that just sounds like a lot of managerial work that I don't want to do. So I ended up starting this organization, which is still Moving Medicine Partners, but it's really a referral network, more or less, an empathy group as well. So every
Mm.
realtor within the organization is married to a physician, as I was,
Mm.
or they were. There's a couple of widows and divorcees, unmarried, but all of them have lived this lifestyle and understand the loan products and the nuances of medicine and the life of being a physician spouse. Because even though it's a title that we don't want, there are some realities and truths that come with the burden of being married to a physician, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this group's nationwide. There's about 85 agents in the organization now, and it's been really fun to be the leader of this group, to be the one facilitating it and empowering and encouraging people. And it went something that I started as like, whatever, appeasing my ex-husband to, oh, this feels good. And when I was married to him, I made excuses to work every hour of the day. And I think now looking back, I was avoiding him
Hmm.
by pouring myself into work. And I had an good excuse to do so because it was creating an immense amount of success. But I was getting up at 3 a.m. and going to bed at 11 p.m. and just working and working. And some of it was just like I wasn't sleeping anyway. My sleep regulation was so messed up just because I was,
Right.
cortisol was like cranking through my body at all times.
Yeah.
But I, through that sleep habit, created a bunch of work. But now that I'm on the other side, like I go to bed at 9. Sometimes I wake up at 9. Like I went on 14 trips last year.
Wow.
Ski trips with my kids, a trip to New York with my daughter, Cancun by myself, a couple of concerts, like a wellness retreat in California. I'm still leading, and I had a higher year in sales last year than I ever have. It was a record year with more sleep and more vacations and more me time and dating mixed in. Like I don't have to work until 11 and wake up at 3 to have the success. It's still coming, and I'm prettier and glowing. My skin is better. And so how is it? It's so good.
Right. You're thriving in every possible way, it sounds like. Incredible.
Yeah, feel like it.
Incredible. All right, well, we're gonna wrap up, but I would like it if you could leave just, I don't know, a word of advice to someone who may be considering leaving, they're in the process. You can pick what scenario they're in, but advice to women who are moving on and trying to find themselves and either through leaving a marriage or something else that's big in their
Yeah.
life. What would you give them?
these just what I mentioned earlier about like look at the trajectory of your path and where that's going to land you. And I know that whenever you're entering this door of potential divorce, like you don't know where that path is going, right? Like you're opening this door to a blank slate. You have no idea what's going to be on the other side, and you take that step and you don't even know if your foot lands anywhere, right? Like it's a very
Right.
scary endeavor, but like look at your present situation and what you're in and what you're enduring, if that's the word that you're using, and just see if the end of that path is taking you somewhere that grows you closer to yourself, to your family, to your spirituality, or if it's pulling you away, because I think that that's your answer. And ultimately, whatever's through door number two, the path towards, at least there's a 50-50 chance. You know, if you stay where you're in right now, you know where that path leads you. If you go through
Mm.
that other door, you can't see what it is. But the trajectory will change.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Trusting yourself goes a long way too, to which door you're gonna choose. Like trust your gut, your intuition, and yourself.
Oh my, if I had just listened to my body,
Yeah.
I would have known. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but what we don't know, like we don't know that our body is screaming at us
Hmm.
in those moments. Thank you
I agree.
so much, Zoe, for coming on. This has been a great, great conversation that I know is going to resonate with others who to hear all or part of it. So all of your
Thank you for
contact
having me.
information is going to be in the show notes, and we're going to connect your socials and stuff. You have a podcast, which I
I
will put in the
do.
show notes as well.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story and just being honest and open. It was wonderful.
I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.